Looked at a later stage. What is critical is to say what are the key issues. In those key issues, what are the implications? How do we move forward? I think if you can give me 5 minutes, this is what I pick up. The first one is that manufacturing exports, we are not an exporting industry. We are basically an industry that is using foreign currency to produce largely for the domestic market. We have drifted from the industrial development policy that we envisaged for 2012-2016. If you remember, we envisaged that exports would be 50% of total exports from manufacturing. We are on 13. We also envisaged a situation where industry will contribute about 30% of GDP. We are far off from there. We are working on much less figures. So there is a problem. And in doing so, we need to actually do something about it. I said to Dr. Mangunja, you actually have what I call perpetual infants. Because if you keep on providing foreign currency and you want to do that, there is a problem. Let me tell you the facts. The facts of the matter is that the aggregate foreign currency generated in Zimbabwe is actually increased. While it is increased, the potential for export is actually declining. That is not a sustainable model. However, whenever you think about it, there is a problem and you must address it. So we cannot avoid what my hero Martin Luther says, the tranquility of gradualism, saying things will fix themselves. I think ministry, there is a need to make sure we realign. The second point that comes out is on the raw material sources. We are sourcing 84% of our raw materials from within Zimbabwe. Now it has come down to 64%. What it means is take any value chain. Take soya, for example. We can grow soya bean, we know that. But I think the Reserve Bank will tell you probably need about $20 million every month to buy either processed oil or soya when you can grow it here. There is a problem. The concept of value chain must be understood by all of us. What does it mean? It actually means that for us to be able to have a semblance of an industry, we must look at the value chain, because what you will see later on is that we have investment on processing where there's no investment in terms of primary raw materials. This is why we now have a situation where, in my own view, when you look at that, we've over-invested in capacity when we should not. If you have a 50% capitalization, in layman John Banyan Sakuva terms, it means the same production could have been produced by 50% of installed capacity. Yet we are increasing investment. There's a problem. The numbers tell you something that we must look at, and I think let's say it once and all so that we know how to move on. Let's move to the next page. The other thing that comes out is that the bulk of our community over 20 years, that's not a secret. But what does it mean? We have Dinganis. Maybe you don't understand me. One of my favorite authors called Alexander Parker, describes Dingani Kasenzugu Ngukona. You know Dingani? I quote, fat, talentless bully who was dangerously inept. What I'm trying to put across is that if you look at closely, we have industries that are running inefficiently. And while they are running inefficiently, there are others going into the same inefficient industry. So if you don't deal with that, we are actually wasting money, investing more rather than increasing efficiency. And dare I ask this question? Should we not be looking at competitiveness before we look at ease of doing business? That's what this seems to be talking to us. Let's look at employment figures. It's quite clear. And it's logical to understand why it's growing. As the new companies in Mutare come in and do processing, they obviously will move from the old model that Keynes used to do. I remember my first interest I saw in Mutare Boys was to do Keynes, and there were all these buckets and a lot of these women that were working all over. And I said, I thought industry, you have things running around. But look, this is what's happening. The other thing that's also happening is that our industry is not competitive. It's not competitive. And what are the reasons? There are so many of them, but basically it's not competitive. The other thing is also on Forex. You, my colleagues, my peers, you are actually saying that only up to 25% of your sales are saying you are receiving at least 50% of your Forex requirements. So let's be real. Panic buy, maybe. All these are the things. But the reality from these figures, as you are saying, is that basically, if you do not have enough foreign currency, you do have problems. And foreign currency does matter in this. What does it talk to? It talks to costs. If you look at the average manufacturing company, 30-35% of the raw materials are imported, and they're coming from South Africa. That has cost implications. The other thing that are there is that let's also look at, even from the monetary policy perspective, what incentives can be done. Should we not be talking about matching? If I am an exporter, I have excess foreign currency, and there is an importer who is looking for foreign currency, surely, technically, you actually have an internal devaluation. Should we not be looking at that and saying what should we do about it? So in a sense, I want people to understand that with a view to say, what do we do going in the future? If we move on to the second last slide, there is also a very worrying implication. And here I want colleagues for you to understand. Weighted capitalization has gone down, volumes have gone up. It's easy to understand, fairly easy to understand. What it means is that people have invested into the sector where they believe is being run inefficiently. And in a sense, what does it talk to? It talks to a situation where only one sector, if you look at the results that were given, textile, clothing, footwear, this is where you have increased capitalization plus increased volumes. But for the others, yes, there's been 5% increase in volume, but in reality, what it means is that we have increased players into the sector. Maybe Barrick or whatever, but what we are actually doing is that maybe you had 10 companies producing 10 gallons of cooking oil. Now you actually have 14 companies producing 10 gallons of cooking oil. And that's not efficient. It means we are deploying investment inefficiently. It talks to policy. Policy in terms of directing things so that investment is done in a particular sector. Let me put it another way. For all the sectors in Zimbabwe, 44% to about 64% of current capacity was not necessary to produce the results you have here. I repeat, for all the sectors, pick your sector, I can go to school with you. For all the sectors that we have, virtually 44% to about 64% of your sector was not necessary to produce the current volumes that we have. Food for thought, but let's move on. Let's talk about VAT as well. There is a nominal increase in VAT by 3%, and let's actually deal with the issue. It's popular to say SI64 increased VAT. I've heard it, I've seen it. Those results are not saying so. In fact, because this is a nominal 3% increase in VAT, you could actually be right in saying there is actually a decline in VAT. But let me go back to the industries as well. If you look at the footwear, clothing, textile industry, it is not under SI64. It's not under SI64, but it has increased both capacity and volumes. Let's move on to the last slide. The other constraints, I think they've been talked about. I think what is important for us colleagues is to focus on those constraints, what I call the few widely reported issues, and deal with them. In South Africa, friend, enemy, and or whatever, I don't want to answer that question. Bottom line is that we need a good bilateral arrangement with South Africa. We source most of our materials from South Africa. We basically need to, they account for almost 30 to 45% of our cost of manufacture. So we need to be able to do it in a smart manner so that we can move on. The issue on women increase from 5% to 13.5%. It's noted. I'm not trying to underplay it, but it's a good development. Hopefully, let's also have that in terms of entrepreneurship, because what we need entrepreneurship, not necessarily positions. Entrepreneurship, so that we can take these inefficient industries so that they can be efficient. The last thing is about confidence. There are issues around there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time out on that. So with that in mind, I think this was my roughly simple take of what has happened. What I would encourage at this point is to say, this is reality. Capitalization is down, but volumes on a positive note are up. Yeah? So there is the positive and the negative one. But in essence, we need to be able to say, how do we move on, going on, so that we can have a vibrant industry. But ladies and gentlemen, we are far from having an exporting industry. We are far from having an industry that is not entirely dependent on on foreign currency. And I think also as industry, introspection must force us to look at it and say, we cannot work and be totally dependent on getting foreign currency from other sectors to be able to fund our industries. I think at this juncture, if we can pass on the mics, we can go into some bit of